You're welcome back. Now, some traders say they have had to pay as much as 5 cedis, 20 pesos, to get $1, the highest the cedi has ever, exchanged against the dollar. The depreciation of the cedi against the major currencies is beginning to hit hard, as traders say the situation is affecting their businesses. Checks on the markets show a rise in the price of some major commodities. Nancy Emefa-Dradosi just returned from the Nima market, a major food market in Accra, and the Aboso-Kine spare parts hub, also in Accra, and has come through with this report.
The cedi is not doing well compared to the dollar. Many importers are feeling the pinch because they need more cedis to buy dollars to do business. But that is not the full story. Our checks at the major food market in Nima show the cedi is faring badly against other trading currencies.
The currency is getting worse. The CFA is very expensive and the dollar is now 5 Ghana cedis. We are suffering. Now, the Naira is going for 14 Ghana cedis. Initially, it was 7 cedis. He should deal with the currency.
60, 65 Naira, 40.
Traders who import food from other West African countries say they have been saddled with debt because they need more cedis to buy currencies like CFA before doing business.
You see, a dollar in the crowd, the American finally buy into Winton. The might say, now
the dollar is too expensive. It's making it very difficult for us to sell. We are incurring losses. Prices have doubled.
Yes, a man first set on 7 cities, 8 cities. No, you see, 13, 14.
Dollars no buyer than papa. Several no buyer than. Market is soon you.
The dollar and CFA have become very expensive. It has caused low sales. I used to sell 10 bags in a day. It's been 3 weeks and I haven't sold even one.
3 weeks in the
Spare parts dealers at Aboso-Kine are very concerned about the cedi depreciation because they largely use dollars to import goods. A gentleman who spoke to JoyNews says his business has stagnated.
Affecting my business, but the whole of this year, man, to me import even 1 car, man, to me import because Vice
President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, after 100 days of his administration, noted it had arrested the cedi and given the keys to the IGP. Spare parts dealers are asking Bawumia to show them the keys.
What has happened to the promise to arrest the cedi?
Vice President Bawumia says he has given the cedi depreciation key to the IGP. Has the IGP traveled?
Vice IGP where to buy? Only Ghana dollar is say.
Nancy Emefa-Dradosi, JoyNews.
Well, as the Ghana cedi continues to fall at a worrying pace, the Bank of Ghana is blaming the fall on the high interest rates introduced by the American Federal Reserve. Speaking to Koji Yankson in an exclusive interview, Director of Financial Markets at the Central Bank, Stephen Opata, said the poor performance of the cedi is largely based on external factors and not domestic at all.
The general story has been a remarkable turnaround for the economy, where as of May, we saw those remarkable turnaround in terms of inflation trending downwards. Our external sector has improved significantly. We're running a trade surplus. And all of this cumulated in rebuilding reserves as of the end of May by about $300 million. So as of May, we had depreciated just 0.26%. So if you compare this historically, we're doing well. Since around May 20th, there were some changes in sentiments, and this has largely been driven by a resurging dollar, a strong dollar, on the back of Federal Reserve policy normalization. By that, I mean, for a long time since the crisis, the Federal Reserve has maintained historically very low rates. But due to improvements in the U.S. economy, the Federal Reserve started increasing rates. As I speak to you now, this year we've seen 2 Fed rate increases, and it's projected that there will be 2 more. So what has happened is that interest rates in the U.S. has gone up. And because of this, some investors that were chasing yield, they liked the Ghana story, but also the fact that relatively interest rates in Ghana were higher than, say, in U.S., or they were generally higher in emerging markets than the U.S. But because of the resurging dollar and improving interest rates environment, some investors are reverting back to the U.S. dollar. This has put some pressures on not just the Cedi, but other emerging market currencies. So I want to situate this discussion in a global context, because the Cedi as a currency, you are pricing it against an international currency like the dollar. So it's not domestic factors. We believe that what's happening has largely been driven by external events that have impacted the Cedi. The relatively higher depreciation this year, say compared to last year, has been due to mostly external factors that are having, in technical terms, you call contagion effects. They are affecting the currency, emerging market currencies, such as the Cedi, the Argentina peso, the lira, the Indian rupee, the South African rands. Actually, these countries have even had even more a significant impact. They are really.
So we've heard from the central bank on what is to account for the free fall of the Cedi, but what has the trend been? Norvan Akwa-Hayford, of my colleague on the Joy Business Desk, joins me with some year-to-date analysis of the performance of the Cedi. So Norvan, tell us, what have you found in your search?
Araba, what is interesting is that if you look at year-to-date, that is September last year till now, you've seen, and you can see from the graph that we have here, you see the Cedi, begin somewhere from 4 cedis, 43 pesos, and currently, and this is what the Bloomberg terminal is showing us, at 4 cedi, 90 pesos as of today. So year-to-date analysis, you can see how the Cedi has been performing. I mean, it was down, it went up, and then was, you see the way it's been moving, and it's been going up to where we find ourselves now as of today, that it's been trading on Bloomberg terminal at 4 cedis, 90 pesos. But as of this morning in Ghana here, interbank rate that we had, that is the commercial banks, they were quoting 4 cedis, 97 pesos. That is how much they were quoting. And of course, if you go out of the commercial banks and then what we call the black market, you could get it at 5 cedis, 52 pesos. Remember, even at our ports, if you look at the government agencies who are operating there, each of them have their own rates that they choose. And you cannot just say that we have external factors that are being the reasons why you have the Cedi performing this way. There are also internal factors. The fact is, we've always relied on short-term measures like pumping in some dollars. Recently, the Bank of Ghana had to put in some $30 million. That is not the solution, Araba. We need, as a country, to move to the medium to long-term measures. That is an economy which is import dependent. We need to move to an export dependent economy, and that is how we'll be able to solve this situation. Remember that under the situation, you have the exporters benefiting from this. They are cashing in. Why? Because so long as they export, they bring in the hard currency, that is the dollars, and so when they change it into cedis, they get more. So any company in this country as of today that are into export are benefiting from what is happening as far as the Cedi depreciates, Araba.
All right, many thanks, Norvan, breaking it down for us. And what he's saying is that even if you go to the commercial banks, you get it at 4 cedi 97. That's what they're quoting. And on the black market, they're quoting 5 cedis. Still on the dollar, my colleague Jojo Kobna has been examining what has been done so far by both the previous and current governments to resuscitate the obviously weak Cedi.
What haven't we done to the Cedi? In 2014, the then NDC women's organizer, Anita Disosu, said dwarfs were sitting on the Cedi, causing the currency to depreciate. Shortly, the General Overseer of the Action Chapel, Archbishop Duncan Williams, also prayed for the revival of the Cedi.
I lift up my money right now and I command the city. Say, I hold this money in my hand right now. The city. Say, I hold up the city. I hold it up. Say, I hold up the city with prayer, and I command the city to recover, and I declare the city will not fall. It will not fall. It will not fall any further. It goes out. I command the city to climb. Say, I command the resurrection of the city.
A powerful prayer, but the cedi did not rise. It did not even remain stable. It depreciated further against the dollar. Dr. Mahamadou Bawumia, while in opposition, said Ghana had weak economic fundamentals, adding it was the reason the cedi was failing.
The Ghana cedi has obtained the dubious distinction of being the weakest performing currency in Africa at this point in time. Interestingly, the NDC Green Book claims exchange rate stability as one of their unprecedented achievements. In an open economy with market determination of prices, exchange rate movements are the most important indicator of underlying macroeconomic fundamentals. You cannot manage the economy with propaganda. In fact, you can engage in all the propaganda you want, but if the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate will expose you.
Then in April 2017, Dr. Bawumia, now Vice President, said the cedi had been arrested. But this year, the cedi has depreciated further, causing anxiety among people who rely on dollars for trading. So Vice President Dr. Bawumia again revised his note, proclaiming the cedi is now depreciating slower than it had pertained since 1993.
The exchange rate of the cedi to the US dollar has remained relatively stable. In fact, despite the recent marginal depreciation, the cedi exchange rate, supported by the relatively stronger fundamentals, has been the slowest depreciation for the first 18 months of any government since 1993.
For now, many Ghanaians are not looking for reasons the cedi is falling. They just want the situation fixed. Are the economic fundamentals still weak?
Jojo Cobbina's report there. We're taking